Even though Carmen can't explore her world independently, she gets plenty of information from her senses.
Johnny! Johnny! Johnny!
Young infants are most receptive to sound, especially motherese,
Johnny! Johnny!
the high-pitched sing-song speech most adults use around them.
Johnny!
¿Qué pasa, mamá? ¿Qué pasa?
Movement is especially interesting for the young infant. Newborns will track any object that takes their fancy. And they pay particular attention to people's faces and what they can do with them. Dad doesn't seem to mind too much.
It turns out babies love faces. Shortly after birth, if you give them the option of a face versus something else, like some kind of an object, they always like to look at faces. We've shown over time that babies are particularly good at recognizing very contrasting emotions like happy versus fear or happy versus anger. But even as late as a year, they have a hard time with negative emotions like anger and fear. Perceptually, babies can tell them apart, but they'll behave the same way, whereas you and I would not. So if you look fearful, I would immediately look around the room thinking, what's making you afraid? If you look angry, I would look only at you because thinking it's specifically from you. Babies don't make that kind of distinction.
Everything within a baby's environment provides opportunities for perception and interaction. These action opportunities are called affordances. Every object can have multiple affordances. This rubber ball affords not just grasping and rolling, but tasting and sucking. And different objects can share the same affordances. Like Samantha's rubber ball, to Johnny any keyring is a tasty treat.
Older children can discover more affordances from an object. Jared already knows this toy train is graspable and even suckable. But at 2, he's more interested in keeping the train on the right track. Infants learn more and more about perception as they refine their locomotion skills. This can be a long process. It seems each time the infant masters a new way of getting about, they forget everything they just learned about perception.
Typically, development proceeds through a series of increasingly erect postures. So most babies first sit up on their own, then they do some kind of crawling, then they sort of cruise sideways, so they move upright in a sideways position but holding onto furniture, handrail for support, and then they walk frontwards independently. And each of those different developmental milestones is apparently a whole different postural control system. So what babies learn for sitting doesn't help them for crawling. What they learn in crawling doesn't transfer to cruising. What they learn in cruising doesn't generalize to walking. We tested babies at the edge of a precipice in an experienced sitting posture or an unfamiliar crawling posture. And so that was an infant leaning out in an experienced sitting posture to reach a toy, and now the toy is 46 centimeters away, so it's too far. And the experimenter just has her arms around the baby in case the baby makes the wrong decision. And then when we test the same babies in the same session in an unfamiliar crawling posture, they don't show any evidence that they know what the difference between safe and risky ground. So on small holes in the floor, they can make it over safely, but it's just serendipity, because on larger holes, they don't seem to have a clue. That was a 30-centimeter gap. And then even with a gap that's the same size as a visual cliff, minus the glass, so this is essentially a 3 by 3 by 3 foot hole, the babies don't give us any evidence that they understand that that's impossible until they have many weeks of crawling experience.
A similar experiment uses sloped walkways. Hillary is an experienced crawler. She can tell immediately if this slope is safe or risky to crawl down, and decides to go the safe way. This is Hillary a few months later, on the same incline soon after learning to walk. In this new posture, she seems to forget everything about risk she knew when she was on all fours. Now, with 10 weeks walking experience, Hillary knows better than to try walking down this slope again.
Children might have difficulty putting locomotion and perception together. In contrast, they seem to understand other perceptual notions much more easily, like the idea of perceptual constancy.
This is Wilma. Wilma.
Emma knows Wilma isn't getting any bigger just because she's moving closer. It's the same old Wilma.
What do you say?
Emma also understands object constancy, the idea that an object remains the same despite changes in its appearance. Wilma is still in one piece, even though part of Wilma is obscured by Daddy's arm. It's easy to see Emma is having a good time.
But it's not always so easy to tell what a baby thinks. And young infants don't have the capacity to express themselves. So researchers have devised methods to study a child's reactions. Take the habituation demonstration, which helps us determine if a baby can distinguish between two similar stimuli. 11-month-old Lilith is presented with a new toy, more than once. Enough times, in fact, for her to become familiar and even bored with the object. Then we show her a new toy. We can assume Lilith notices the difference between the two from the way she immediately takes to the newer object.
New babies aren't quite sure what happens to objects when they leave their sight. Sky's mom keeps disappearing and reappearing. No wonder peekaboo is so much fun. During their first year, however, infants will learn an important concept: object permanence. Everything has a life of its own, even if it is out of sight.
At Maya's age, babies know to look for the object, but they might not have everything else straight. 10-month-old Simon is about to make a classic mistake, known as the A, not B error. Although he watched us place the toy plane under the white cloth, he'll look for it where he last found it, not where he watched us hide it. If a 1-year-old can't find an object they want right away, they're likely to give up looking.
Emma know where her dolly is?
Where's Emma's dolly? What's the dolly doing?
An 18-month-old like Emma is much more persistent.
Where's your dolly, Emma? Where's your dolly? Where's Emma's dolly? Go, Emma. Maybe the dolly's down there. Go look and do it down there.
Thank God, Dolly thought you'd never find her.
Is that your baby? Your baby.
Emma remembers her dolly from day to day.
Whereas young infants don't retain much beyond simple exercises like feeding. At about 6 months, infants can learn by imitating. After watching Mom and Dad play with this toy, it's baby's turn. However, 2 weeks from now, this baby will probably act as if he's never seen this toy before. After 9 months of age, as myelination in the cerebral cortex continues, children begin to recollect more information. The concern most 1-year-olds express around strangers, or in this case, our camera, is a good illustration of this increase in memory capacity.
This is definitely someone Ryland doesn't remember.
Obviously, she has categories. She's using words.
Modern child researchers are indebted to the pioneering work of the Swiss psychologist Jean Piaget. Piaget identified 6 stages in the development of an infant's practical cognitive intelligence. The first stage, called reflexes, lasts only the first month of a baby's life. At this stage, behavior is limited to basic reflexes such as crying, sucking, and grasping. During the second stage, from the first through the fourth month, infants adapt their reflexes to the world around them. 4-month-old Carmen now knows that nursing requires different skills than chewing on this toy, even though both grew out of the sucking reflex. In the third stage of sensory motor development, between 4 and 8 months, infants become aware of and respond to people and objects. The more Boris shakes the rattle, the more noise it makes.
Johnny knows this is good coffee. He's at the fourth stage, anticipating events and adapting his behavior to get what he wants.
Did you want coffee, you silly bear? Did you want coffee for the silly bear boy?
Young Christopher has a different approach.
He'll ask for his bottle, you know, he'll point or he'll get his bottle. Sometimes if it runs out, he'll put it in front of your face.
After their first birthdays, toddlers enter the fifth stage, experimentation and creativity. Piaget called children at this stage little scientists. They're into everything. By the sixth stage, 2-year-olds are beginning to solve problems in their heads before acting out a solution. With these developmental milestones behind them, children's lives become richer as they incorporate fantasy, pretend, and complex communication.
You want some more?
Yes.
More, please?
Please.
Okay. More, please. More? Okay, you finish that one, okay?
There is a language explosion in the first 3 years of a child's life. At this age, children desperately want to communicate with and control other people.
Hello?
They also have a history of interacting with their caregivers and environment, which gives them an advantage in using words in familiar activities.
I play. Hello? I play.
You're fine? I'll hang it up the phone. Should I hang up the phone? Here, I'll hang it up.
Most researchers believe humans have a biological capacity to acquire language, as well as an inborn ability to make sense of word patterns, a theory known as universal grammar.
It's not that anyone is born with language. Obviously, we're not born with English or Japanese and so on. We know that because of immigration. If someone moves to a new country, their child will not speak the language they speak, but the language of the environment. However, the question is, what makes language acquisition possible to begin with? Why does a human learn to speak, but a cat won't, even if the cat hears the same sentences? How come the best computer program in existence can't learn to speak the way a child does? Well, the child obviously knows precisely how to analyze the speech coming from other parents, how to chop it into words, how to peel off rules that order nouns and verbs and subjects and objects. And it's that ability, the ability to hear a stream of sound as being composed of grammatical elements, that you can call universal grammar.
Infants have been trying to communicate from the very beginning. These reflexive sounds soon evolve into separate, specific cries. Babies soon learn all these sounds serve a purpose. Between 6 and 10 months, with the encouragement of their parents and caregivers,
Oh, I love your singing.
babies' repertoire of noises evolve into babbling. The syllables that are the building blocks of true speech. Babbling appears about the same time as pointing, and, like pointing, is used to refer to objects and people.
At around 10 months of age, communication between baby and parent truly begins. Infants begin to understand specific words. In return, parents and siblings recognize that these pre-verbal sounds refer to specific objects.
Around their first birthdays, infants make a major breakthrough, uttering their first true words.
You're wet.
Yes.
A what?
Bye-bye. 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 Bye-bye.
At this age, babies may use single words to capture entire thoughts. These are called hollow phrases.
The infant's first 50 words come slowly, but after that, watch out. By 18 months, most infants are adding at least 12 words to their vocabulary every day.
Mommy had.
Is this Daddy?
Mommy. Mommy. Mommy.
By 21 months, many toddlers can combine nouns and some verbs into two-word phrases called telegraphic speech.
More.
These phrases contain only the most important words without the grammatical function words.
I found it.
You found it?
I found
Hooray!
Oh, yeah, my Papa.
By 24 months of age, toddlers already understand language structure and function. Now it's all about having fun.
Can you do the alphabet one again for me? What's little dude think?
I think little dude
A, B, C, D.
More than any other skill, the emergence of language signals the end of infancy and the beginning of childhood.